leap of faith.
This is the way. Truth is, I am Iron Man.
Tells me the most relentless.
Hello, critics, non-critics, and friends. Welcome to the Film Optix podcast, where we take a glance into blockbusters, indie films, and everything in between. I'm your host, Christian, and I'm joined by my good friend and my co-host, Devin. And today we're here to give our reflections and spoiler thoughts on The Boys Season 3 finale, more specifically episodes 4 through 8. We are recording this early for you guys, but it's not going to drop until July 8th or the day after, probably the weekend after the finale has hit on Amazon Prime. So we're kind of like recording this in secret for you guys. It's a little fun. Very exciting time for us. Thank you again to Amazon for sending us every episode of The Boys for those advanced screeners. And, you know, we kind of have to abide by the rules. You know, what kind of podcast would we be if we just blurted this out? Because by the time of this recording, the first 3 episodes are only out, but we just couldn't stop watching. So we just kept watching the rest of the series. And here we're going to be giving our spoiler-free thoughts for episodes 4 through 8. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Very, very excited to dive into this season. Perhaps the best season yet. I don't know. Maybe that's a hot take. We'll get into it here in a bit. But before we begin today's episode, you can listen to our podcast on podcast platforms around the internet. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. And if you are a new or seasoned listener to the show, we would love to hear from you guys. Follow us on Instagram and follow us on Twitter at FilmOptix. That is Optix with an X, or you can email us at filmoptix@gmail.com for any movie-related questions. Devin, how the heck are you? Ready to take down some soups?
Yes, butcha. Let's go.
Butch. So I believe the last time that we spoke for our episode 1 through 3 spoiler-free review, we kind of talked about what our temp v superhero powers would be. So I believe I said teleportation. I forgot what yours was. Can you remind me once?
So you just copied Huey's basically.
So yeah, I guess in a way, but I was thinking more so, like, it seems that he was able to teleport wherever, just in general, like, but I guess maybe
just naked.
Yeah, but like without the naked part. Like, I don't want to be, you know, traveling to the UK or Japan or Germany and then, like, you know, on my phone and my keys in my wallet or in my pants and then poop, I'm naked in a new country. I got nothing.
That's just the ultimate Huey power. Like, there's got to be some negative to it just because it's Huey.
Exactly. But Devin, how you been, man? How's your weekend been?
Pretty solid weekend. Just been watching The Boys. Just can't get enough.
I really couldn't, because when we did our episode 1 through 3 review, I was like, man, I really wanted to push forward, but I was like, I had to stop myself so that we can actually record episodes 1 through 3, because I didn't want to, like, you know, give myself away to anything. 'Cause all those, you know, reactions and thoughts are raw. You know, those are our true, honest reactions. Of course, you can find that on the podcast now. But for this episode, again, this is spoilers on deck. You know, we're going to be talking about everything that happened between episodes 4 through 8, talk about, you know, how this season has panned out for us, and, you know, how it compares to the other 2 seasons as well. Usually when it comes to a lot of these seasons, after season 2, for a lot of TV shows nowadays, it's kind of sink or swim, because usually a lot of TV shows now will get a season 2. And as this recording is going on June 5th, we recently found out, unfortunately, Raised by Wolves on HBO Max will not be getting a 3rd season. The 2nd season ended on a major cliffhanger, and I found out a few days ago. I was very, very heartbroken. I was like, this first they just canceled Lovecraft Country, LCC, whatever you want to call it, Lovecraft Country. I was very disappointed in that, because there's so much more they could have done with that. But then I was like, okay, well, at least I have Raised by Wolves. So I was like, oh, I got a season 2. Very excited. And in the press for season 2, it was like one of their after episode little mini-sode things. They mentioned that season 3 was coming. Season 3 is not coming. Not at all. But luckily, The Boys is here to save the day. Another superhero property, probably one of my most favorite ones outside of Marvel and DC, just because of how realistic it is and how much it imitates life as we know it, especially now in today's age, which is really, really I think is very important for sure. But Devin, are you ready just to jump into this review, this analysis, our reflection?
Episode 4 really just gets you going. It's just such a great start for the rest of the episodes.
Yeah, it definitely is for sure. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after this introduction to The Boys Season 3.
So, let me say it again, Cam. I may be a superhero, but I'm also just a man who fell in love with the wrong woman. Just a man who fell for the wrong woman. Fell for the wrong woman. But out of crisis comes change. Out of crisis comes change. So I spent the last year really slowing down and reconnecting with myself. And I am very excited for everyone to meet the real me.
And we are back with The Boys Season 3 spoiler review. So this is our one and only warning for you guys. Just want to let you guys know. Actually, I'm going to give you one more warning here. That is your second warning for The Boys Season 3. We're going to be talking about everything spoiler centric. So, turn back now if you haven't seen it. But I'm going to turn the floor over to Devin so he can give his initial reactions to The Boys Season 3.
Boy, Season 3, we're really here. We really had a hero-gasm. Can't believe they did it. They actually pulled it off.
It's probably the best. There's always that one episode that stands out, and hero-gasm is it for sure.
Yeah, it's that in episode 4 for me. At least definitely getting it started. This season it's just crazy. The stuff they can actually put on TV, and Amazon gives them the freedom to show these things, these jaw-dropping moments that happen pretty much every episode that you would never see anywhere else. It's just crazy to see. And the introduction of Jensen Ackles, that is just chef's kiss casting. You cannot have had better casting for that character. I feel like he could have played Captain America with that voice and that beard. If we didn't already have Chris Evans, he probably actually auditioned for it. Who knows? He might have been trying back in the day, but he was just the perfect casting because the way he just had his voice and his tone and his just way of being was so Captain America gone bad. The bad side of Captain America, the grandpa that everybody hates because of how terrible his views are. It was just so amazing to watch. I will say I do have a couple issues, and one of the main ones just being kind of how this one ends and how similar it is to the ending of season 2. We can talk about that later, but overall, it's just so entertaining. I mean, the Deep just always doing the deep things. A-Train being terrible as always, and we get some temp V for Butcher and Huey, which is very entertaining and interesting, and definitely has some consequences.
It's crazy, man, because like you said about Jensen Ackles, this might be a hot take, but honestly, I enjoyed, Jensen Ackles, him being Soldier Boy and being part of the original, the 7, aka, which is Payback. That is it's very interesting to see how, the original team forms, and especially how Black Noir is kind of like the bridge in between both teams. But I got to say, with Jensen Ackles' performance as Soldier Boy, I liked it way more than John Walker in Falcon and Winter Soldier. I really now that I've seen his performance, I'm like, man, I really wish we would have gotten Jensen Ackles as the quote unquote new Captain America that we got in Falcon and Winter Soldier. But
I don't think it would have been any different, really. It's just the main difference is just the rated R versus the PG-13 or whatever that Captain America was. It's just being rated R. He can just do so much more here. He has so much more freedom.
That is true. Yeah, we might have gotten the Disney-fied version of Jensen Ackles' performance. But overall, my thoughts for The Boys, episodes 4 through 8, I really, really enjoyed it. There's so much that happens, and it feels like There are a lot of twists and turns that, that really flows with the story in a way. It didn't feel like too much at once. I feel like there are a few characters that kind of got sidelined a little bit, especially with Newman and Queen Maeve. More so, we see a little bit more of Queen Maeve in this. I feel
like Maeve had a pretty nice character arc in this one. I think the main issues I had were Newman and Black Noir, because we just don't really learn anything about them.
No, those are probably my two biggest gripes as well, especially with Black Noir. Like we've seen Black Noir's face.
We get his origin, but then we don't learn anything after that.
No.
Except that he's kind of insane and sees cartoons in his head in real life.
And he's still allergic to almonds, as always. It's great because I do love Black Noir as a character. We go into a little bit more of his psyche. But like I said in our episode 1 through 3 review for the premiere, we really see like this huge, like we go even deeper into Homelander's psyche as well, which is something really, really interesting that, they've been touching on a lot. I do agree with Newman. I feel like we never really learned much about her, especially
you just can't get a read on her, especially since she keeps flipping sides on us. Can't figure out what her end game is.
Yeah, the president of Vought taught her to, play everything from all sides to begin.
Yeah, it was a nice twist that we found out that her dad is Stan Edgar.
Yeah,
but then after that, we just kind of don't learn anything else.
No, we really, because right after that, she has a few encounters with Starlight. But like that's kind of it, because obviously Huey's been avoiding Newman this entire time, or Nadia, however you want to, label her as. But I guess we'll just say Newman just for the sake of the episode. But she kind of gets, a little whiff that, Huey kind of knows what's going on because, she was introduced in season 2. I still think season 2 is very good. For some reason, I really just enjoyed this episode, or not this episode, excuse me. I really enjoyed this season a lot more, probably because it is more political than anything else. The entire show is political, but I feel like this season, for season 3, is probably the most, the biggest political battle that we've seen so far. Everything we saw with Stormfront and season 2. I feel like with season 2, it took a few episodes for me to get into it again for some reason, especially the first 3 episodes of season 2. I just felt like, it took me a while to get into the episode itself. But honestly, from season 3, like right off the bat, I was like, let's go. Like, we're here. The boys are back. It literally jumps straight to where, we need to be. I feel like for season 2 was more of a buildup, and there's nothing wrong with that. But for season 3, it was like, it just hits the ground running. Hey, it's a year after the events of season 2. Huey's working for the FBI version of the superheroes. Butcher and the rest of the boys are on the straight and narrow. And, Starlight is, running this America's Got Talent type superhero-esque thing for, to figure out who's going to be, in the 7, because that's like the new thing. But I really enjoyed this series a lot, especially for season 3. It's probably one of my favorite shows today. Even though it's based off of, other superhero properties, but there's nothing wrong with that. It's just I really love all the political, parallels between our world and this version of New York. Everything that happened with A-Train. And then, of course, what happens to Supersonic, and it's some insane stuff, man. But I feel like we're barely scratching the surface here, but I'll bounce it back over to you. Between the last 5 episodes, we kind of talked about how Herogasm episode 6 was our favorite. I think we're both in agreement there.
Yeah, it's tough. I feel like all of them have a lot to offer. Like, even just reading through the different plot points, it's just a lot happening in every episode. I really like 7 too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Episode 7 was really, really great because and we really get more of a depth of Kimiko this season as well. So it's,
Yeah, a lot of development for her and Frenchie.
yeah, which is, it was kind of like the will they, won't they, get together. But at the end of the day, Kimiko, she kind of realizes that Frenchie is more like family instead of more of like a lover because they do kind of share a little bit more of a romantic relationship. I think that is a nice touch just for, just because there are like a man and woman character that have like a really good relationship doesn't necessarily mean that they always have to get together. So it is more, I guess you could say platonic, but it's more of a family bond because of what happened with the rest of Kimiko's family.
I love the Dominic Toretto joke that Huey made. I love cars and family.
The Bill Cosby joke.
Oh my God.
That Soldier Boy made. It's so, I love this so much because obviously, you see so much of Captain America within Soldier Boy, and it's this weird, twisted, alternate like dimension. Like,
what if Captain America was your racist grandpa?
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is basically.
Well, maybe The Boys is just one of those infinite multiverses within the MCU where everything's just completely sideways. It's probably the most realistic out of any other, multiverse MCU universe out there, but I'm not entirely sure. But I did want to go through like each of the episodes here and fairly quickly, but kind of just starting with episode 4 and then moving onward. So episode 4 is titled Glorious 5-Year Plan. And we learn a lot about Soldier Boy's powers and how he was kept in containment. The world thought that he was gone, that they thought that he was dead. But he's basically Captain America that is invincible. Yeah. Basically, now with his new powers, because he didn't have the kind of like
whatever the chest nuke is.
Yeah, the chest nuke, like, power belly beam.
So it seems like the Russians might have added that power as a nice DLC for for our boy.
Superheroes getting DLCs out here. They really do go into Soldier Boy's psyche there a little bit, especially with Billy this season as well. But kind of moving back to episode 4, like, we get the Soldier Boy musical performance, and then we get, obviously with Soldier Boy's newfound powers, as you said, the DLC powers, but also Kimiko loses her powers throughout this episode.
We find out that that's part of Soldier Boy's powers, that he can take away other superpowers with the chest nuke.
I really like that. I like the power set, but I wasn't sure what necessarily set it off.
They kept mentioning PTSD, and then just whenever he's in peril, I guess. I
wasn't sure if it was like a certain like song or like, a specific like phrase or something, how they did with, Winter Soldier. But, it was a nice touch because it's a newfound power that we didn't know about before. We just knew that he was the original Homelander. And, Stan Edgar kind of goes into all of this. He also kind of gets pushed away to the sidelines a little bit, comes back as well. But, he's, like you said, he's trying to get out of the superhero game within like the next 5 years. So we'll definitely see what's going on there. But of course, I feel like we have to talk about A-Train.
And his betrayal of Supersonic. I told you we couldn't trust A-Train. He tried. He really tried.
I thought the whole like Black Lives Matter type thing was going to kind of like change his mind. But as we see throughout the rest of the season, like he literally just is out for himself. Like we clearly see that A-Train is like out of control. He has his heart disease problem, and we'll definitely get to his that weird twist turn that they did. I actually liked it a lot, but he wants to act like he's on the straight and narrow. Of course, the video game idea that he tries to bring up to Ashley, and she was like, no. But it's so weird.
They did that like Jenner Pepsi commercial, but with A-Train. That was just amazing. Just gonna end racism with this beverage.
So within the season, we learn that, A-Train doesn't care about anyone but himself. He's very selfish. And, we kind of get thrown like a red herring thinking that everything that happens with Blue Hawk only targeting like black neighborhoods and whatnot. Like he clearly wants to do something about it, but like obviously it's for publicity for himself because he can't run anymore. And then, he learns about Supersonic's plans and then he betrays him. And I'm like,
then Supersonic is just brutally just destroyed by Homelander. Kind of wish we could have seen that, but it was cool to see the end result.
Yeah, I do agree with you there. Like I like I sometimes I like the off-screen murders. Like, it's not that, I guess you can say Homelander is a little bit more murdery or like less murdery maybe in this one. Like he does kill off a few people, but it's more about
a few big ones.
Yeah, for sure. But it's more about, he's trying to like contain himself, he's unhinged, as Starlight says, and kind of like bursts throughout. But it's crazy, Victoria Newman, she's afraid for her daughter's safety for Homelander, so she gives her the Compound V. We don't know what kind of power set that she has, but that is also something that you can kind of, I guess maybe it'll be like a mini, head popper, possibly. I'm not entirely sure, but and then Mother's Milk, he's definitely getting a little bit tired of the boys. He's looking after his daughter, and I really like how they did with his storyline where the co-parenting thing between the father and the stepfather, and Monique not being with Mother's Milk anymore. But I do apologize. I've been ranting on here for a while. I'm going to pass it back over to Devin. If there's anything you wanted to bring up that we haven't yet, I know there's a lot to unpack here, but I'm just trying to get through it in a timely fashion.
Yeah, we can move on. We can kind of quickly discuss episode 5 because I feel like 5 is probably the weakest from a story standpoint. There's really not a lot happening in this one. The main highlights just being that the boys team up with Soldier Boy kind of at the end there, despite Starlight objecting to that heavily, which she was correct about. And then also they lead Soldier Boy to Crimson Countess, and he destroys her. And then before that, we see Crimson Countess's OnlyFans account, and Seth Rogen is paying to watch her. That was amazing.
What was it, like $20 like a minute?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'd always love Seth Rogen cameos in the show. Yeah, I mean, other than that, there's not too much. We found out that A-Train's brother is paralyzed because of Blue Hawk's attack.
Well, which is also because of A-Train, again, because he's trying to quote unquote make right and he wants justice. And then Ashley's like, okay, you want justice, He's been, trying to hammer it towards Vought, and clearly Vought didn't really care. And we kind of find out later on that Ashley was just kind of tired of A-Train because, for people who are now just watching the show or may have forgotten, like this entire thing, all these like storylines and, everything with Huey and the boys, everything started off with A-Train murdering Huey's girlfriend, Robin. And, Ashley was just very, very tired of trying to cover A-Train's tracks. He was kind of a loose cannon.
Can't believe Ashley got up to CEO, like from where she started.
Honestly, it's pretty awesome though. Like if there's anything, like I know she's not like, she's a fan favorite, but like her as a person is like not the best because she's just trying to get paid. She doesn't really, she's very corporate level, like whatever the company policy is and whatnot. But I will say she's definitely, taking care of these superheroes here, for their misdeeds, but
and losing her hair because of it.
Yeah, literally losing her hair. Like, I love how Homelander just, continues to call people out. Everything that happens with A-Train, calling him out for like the milkshake, saying, he's getting fat and, everyone can see your girdle. And then, obviously everything that happens with Ashley. It's so funny because like A-Train is like, you want to feel bad for him, but at the same time you don't, because like he's trying to quote unquote do the right thing, but it's all for himself. And then Ashley just gets tired of it. And she said, like, screw you. Like she's tired of him. And I'm like, you know what? I kind of get it. I wouldn't want to be in A-Train's corner either. But yeah, not a lot to say about episode 5. I mean, the whole Maeve.
Also, Maeve and Butcher hooked up, which is interesting.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really see that coming. I would agree that episode 5 is probably the weakest of, like, I mean, it's still a good episode. It's just a lot of, funny randomness stuff that goes on. Doesn't really, it kind of pushes the story forward, like, just enough. But of course, that moves us into episode 6, which is Hero-gasm. So yeah, Hero-gasm, arguably probably one of the best episodes, or the best.
The title alone, you would never expect to see on a TV show.
It's funny because it's like, I don't know, it's everything that happens in this episode. It's like, it really is kind of like the climax. We finally, A-Train runs again, after he murders Blue Hawk and kind of just has enough of it. And it's all a part of, like, the hunt. You're building up to the climax of Soldier Boy meeting Homelander. And of course, we said before, Homelander is a bit of a loose cannon on in this entire series. And I really just like how, Huey and Starlight are having their own kind of, disagreements there. Huey's just very tired of being saved. Huey starts taking the Compound V and he feels like he can defend himself, which is something that's, I feel like is relatable. He's said in time and time before that it doesn't really bug him, but the farther you get into a relationship, those feelings may start to, fester and kind of build towards resentment, which is something that's, it's very relatable just from like a relationship standpoint, where there is something that kind of looms over the entire relationship, where it's kind of like, I guess you can say, like the big test, like the one thing between both parties that may or may not, sink or swim when it comes to that relationship. So I don't know. It's something really interesting that I've really that kind of latched on to as well. But the rest of Hero-gasm, we have the Deep. The Deep is
with his favorite mollusk. Not an octopus, apparently.
I really like the Deep in this series, like in this season specifically, because he's
just the ultimate comedic relief.
He really is. And it's like he's kind of the butt of he's still like the butt of the joke, but like he's still trying to like live a normal life, and he tries to get a little je ne sais quoi going on between him and his his wife, and this octopus. And it's so funny because it all comes back to, it kind of comes back to the joke of Peacemaker towards the end, or it was the joke that kind of ran through the entire series, where they were talking about how Aquaman fucks fish. And, that kind of comes back. And I love it how they just exploit the funny little fan moments.
They just get straight into it.
Yeah, like they don't even care. It's even during the beginning.
It's not even a question. It's just.
Well, even during like the beginning of the entire series, the hashtags, the Dawn of the Seven, and all that stuff is very, Zack Snyder's Justice League. But yeah, man,
I saw he actually tweeted about that. He said he kind of just made a joke about it. But he seemed like he took it like a champ. Oh,
Zack Snyder did?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's hard not to ignore, but like I love Hero-gasm so much, just because, I mean, of course, Huey, it's like he fits right in, he's on the hunt for Homelander, So Billy Butcher, not Billy from Stranger Things, Billy Butcher, Huey and Soldier Boy have this deal that, they'll help Soldier Boy find the rest of his old team Payback, because I guess they sold him out in a way, they told his whereabouts, because there's a lot of reflection between the Seven and Payback, how, Soldier Boy was the Homelander before Homelander, and nobody liked him, even though he thought that the world loved him. But I don't know. I just wanted to get kind of like your thoughts on the rest of Hero-gasm. I guess we'll just move on to the rest of the series here.
Yeah, there's even a couple of small moves, like Homelander just kind of steps on Termite. Probably doesn't even realize it, but Termite is definitely dead. And then Starlight getting on Instagram Live and just exposing everything, which is definitely a big deal. As far as that storyline goes, just seeing she basically just lets it all out, and of course, not a lot of people believe her, but she does still have 17 million followers or something. So she gets the info out there, but
she's done. She's tired. Like I would be tired too. You know, she kind of she doesn't really even view Starlight as a part of who she is, because it's really just a mantle. And, you know, like you said, she outs everyone and everything. And I really like how she tries to play by the rules. You know, she tries to stay in this game for as long as she can. And then, you know, her friend Supersonic, who gets added into the 7 and not even on their first mission, whatever, he gets obliterated.
I don't even know if we ever figured out what his power was. I don't even know.
I don't know either. I'm assuming it had something.
It's sound based.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like it is something dealing with, I guess, a sound barrier, or kind of like a Black Canary type situation, because he made that one song when he was 16.
License to drive.
License to drive. I was like, this would not fly in today's.
It's so easy to make boy band songs.
Yeah,
Turning Red and now this.
I love it.
So basic and simple.
I think boy bands are making a comeback. If I'm being completely honest, it's something that lives in all of us. I feel like, but I'm not entirely sure. But we also get the return of Love Sausage in this episode. The guy who first opens up the door, and it's the Herogasm it's just this big orgy where, you know, all the superheroes kind of just let loose. I guess it's like a yearly thing that Soulja Boy kind of started back in the day, and it lives on. So, you know, I really feel like episode 6 was probably the best. Of course, you know, the confrontation between Soulja Boy and Homelander, we finally get that.
Yeah, just seeing Butcher and Huey and Soulja Boy just kind of triple teaming Homelander. First of all, it just shows how strong Homelander is.
So I'm just gonna say they almost had him. They were maybe 4 seconds later, he would have been toast. He would have been alive, but he would have been, you know, I guess
powerless.
Yeah, I guess the nuke bomb, or, you know, this blast that Soulja Boy is able to produce, it fries all the compound V out of you.
Yeah, because we find out later that it's not really deadly per se if you're a soup, because Maeve obviously survives her sacrifice at the end, but then she doesn't have powers. So I guess it just depends on your strength as a soup, because some of the ones at Herogasm died because they must not have been strong enough to take that force, but Maeve was, and I imagine Homelander is too.
It's a pirate's life for her. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, she gotta get a patch now and move on. That was a nice little arc for her, though. Just seeing between her and Starlight specifically, just seeing that connection and that relationship build up. It was great to see, because Starlight believes that there are heroes out there, and Maeve was very, very on the fence about that being the case. But then at the end of the day, she became a hero and sacrificed herself.
It's much like Maeve was kind of having parallels for, you know, this older version of Obi-Wan that we're seeing, where she's kind of just given up and she just wants to be done, and she just wants to live out the rest of her life as, you know, as normal as possible. And she's kind of done, she wants to kind of close herself off from this whole compound V type situation with Vots, and she just wants to live the rest of her life with her lover, her nice little her girlfriend. So there's that. But yeah, let's quickly move on here to episode 7 and 8, and then we'll kind of move out here. I remember, so episode 7, of course, is the penultimate episode, which is titled "Here Comes a Candle to Light You to Bed."
I think all these titles are pretty bad except for Herogasm.
Yeah, I'm not really a big fan of these titles. Usually I really love reading the episode titles of each series that comes about, if we're able to get our hands on them. But yeah, this one I'm not really too crazy about. Here comes a candle to light you to bed. I'm like, I guess. I really just
the big thing here is just seeing Butcher's flashbacks. It's just amazing to see, because his little brother Lenny is really just Huey. That's all it comes down to. He really thinks Huey is his little brother, basically.
Right. And, the Soldier Boy, after, the successes of the Hero Gasm, where, Soldier Boy kills the Wonder Twins, and he's also, Gunpowder fell by the hands of Billy. And then Scarlet, or I guess Scarlet Witch, or whatever you want to call her, she was, Soldier Boy killed her, and now he's officially killed the Wonder Twins. And now he's on the hunt for Mindstorm. So we kind of get a little bit with him, but I will say with the Payback crew, like we see them like obviously in their later years, but we don't get, we get depth with them as a team as a whole, kind of, but really through Black Noir's eyes. But I really think this was a great type of, I guess you could say, like penultimate episode. Like, Starlight discovers that the temp V is actually fatal, and we kind of see hints of that throughout the season where Huey and Billy are kind of...
Your brain's leaking.
Yeah, pretty much. It's supposed to turn your brain into Swiss cheese, and obviously, it's temp V that's not even tested for the public use. Like, it was still under, beta form or whatever you want to call it. But one of the biggest things I think the takeaways here, not even like Kimiko getting her powers back, but A-Train getting a heart transplant from Blue Hawk.
Yeah, so even he thinks he's doing something in honor of his brother, like killing off Blue Hawk because of what he did to his brother. But at the end of the day, it benefits him too. Like even when he possibly tries to do something good, it's just all about himself. That's all it comes down to. It all benefits him. It's
like poetry, it rhymes, right? So it's like, A-Train was, supposedly trying to get Blue Hawk behind bars. He goes to his brother tells him that Blue Hawk's been targeting specifically Black neighborhood. And then, A-Train has the whole, okay, well, let's get Blue Hawk to apologize. Then Blue Hawk kind of lets loose altogether. I think it was like 2 episodes before Hero Gasm in episode 5. I believe that was in episode 5, where he kind of just like lets loose at the town hall, and things kind of just run amok. And, A-Train wants to do something about it then, but he can't, but he decides to, run again for, to at least, I feel like he wanted to, at least his last run would be for something of justice in a way. But like you said, Devin, he's really just looking out for himself because his brother is a little bit mad at him for killing Blue Hawk, because A-Train's brother wanted his kids to see Blue Hawk behind bars instead of, oh, we're just going to kill him kind of situation. Like, I guess there's different ways to handle justice, but that's not the type of justice that A-Train's brother was looking for. But now A-Train can run again because he has a heart transplant, but it's Blue Hawk's heart. So it's a constant reminder, which is insane. I really, really like what they do with A-Train's, with his story arc this season.
And then I guess the big payoff at the end of this episode was Soldier Boy revealing that he is Homelander's dad, which was very interesting. It makes sense once you think about it, but then you're like, wait, it adds up, the timing. But then you just didn't expect it.
That is like his father in a way, because I guess they like saved a seaman or whatever, and they told Soldier Boy that there was like a baby that they were like going to create like another superhero, and Soldier Boy kind of like, you would think he would have been mad, but it's like he had kind of told Homelander that I would have let you take my place if they would have like told me everything that's going on. And then, we find out that Soldier Boy is also responsible for Black Noir's scar injury, which is probably why we see, Black Noir going with his imaginary friends with the stuttering issues and whatnot. But that was too funny. I love it how they switch back and forth. It's like, yeah, he's literally just sitting there by himself. And then like, that's it. But I mean, in a way, we kind of find, I believe in this episode as well, for episode 7, Starlight tells Butcher Temp V is fatal, but he decides not to tell Huey. It's weird between their relationship between Huey and Billy, because in a way, like, Huey sees Billy in this certain light that's kind of, it's kind of distraught, but like in a way he
sees things in him that no one else does. He sees that there is good five deeps down, but somewhere deep down there.
He said deep, 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 deep down, somewhere in there, there's like a sliver of good. It's really, really weird. But yeah, there's a lot of big twists and turns within this episode, for episode 7. And I think that it kind of like, okay, like this is the penultimate episode and it really sets everything up for the finale. So I guess we'll just move on over to episode 8, which is titled Instant White Hot Wilds. Yeah,
I don't understand these titles.
I'm not liking the names of these episodes. Besides Herogasm and maybe like the first 3 episodes, nothing like for Stranger Things. Like I absolutely love those episode titles. But so we're pretty much here at the end of the road for the season finale for season 3 for the boys, and everything kind of just goes haywire here. I mean,
Homelander kills Black Noir, just rips his guts out completely after Black Noir admits that he knew about Soldier Boy being alive.
And he knew that Soldier Boy was like, in a way, that Soldier Boy was, Papa. Papa.
I want to see an 11 versus Homelander battle.
I don't know who's going to win that one. My mind is telling me Homelander, but my heart is rooting for 11.
I think only chance 11 has is if she can also transport Homelander to a different dimension and turn him into a Vecna type creature.
See, a Vecna type Homelander is not something that you want whatsoever, because that is
he's going to be more like Freddy from Friday the 13th than anything.
Yeah,
like he'll be in your nightmares and doing diabolical things.
But I really wanted to touch on Homelander, the I guess you could call it the Green Goblin conversation that he gets, like, with, he has that conversation with himself. That's usually what I refer back to. It's very, the parallels are there where, Norman Osborn's talking to himself with the Green Goblin venom injected into him. But
what was that accent his reflection had? It was interesting.
It was funny. I was like, it's nice to kind of differentiate, like, okay, who's talking when type situation. He's like, hey, buddy, old pal. Also, really quick, before we get into the finale here, when Mother's Milk gets like drenched in semen, I felt so bad for him this season. Like, he's literally had it, like, his tolerance is maybe like hitting like at a 10. Like, they were pushing his patience to like a 15. He was just not having it this entire season whatsoever. But do you remember what happened right after he gets drenched in that semen? The guy's like, he's like, come back anytime you want to, like Honey Bear or something like that. I was like, what? I have to rewatch it because I absolutely loved it when he said that. I forgot exactly what the guy said. But
I feel like I need to rewatch the whole Herogasm scene because I'm sure there's a lot of little details missed. Just seeing everything happening.
It was great for sure. But back on track with the season finale here for episode 8. And also I kind of wanted to mention for this, speaking of. I guess we'll kind of talk about Ryan for a little bit because he was kind of in this season, but not really. He was one of those other characters that kind of got pushed to the sideline. He's staying with the FBI lady, and I'm drawing a blank on her name again. But we the one that we got the flashback with because she also knows who Payback is. Homelander finds Ryan finally because he gets that information from Newman. So they're kind of in cahoots a little bit together there, Newman and Homelander, which is kind of interesting. But it's, the final battle is really, really like just, it's got the juices flowing. Like, we finally, Starlight's ability to fly, which is amazing. Got to dial up those lights to like 11 there, which Huey did for her, which is something I really, really enjoyed watching.
Yeah, I love the parallels of that to just being like him just being supportive, like kept taking a back seat for his girlfriend and letting her like save the day instead of him trying to save the day himself.
And it really goes and also boils down to, he obviously he takes the compound V or the temp V into this final battle, and he kind of looks at it but he knows the risks, and he's like, well, maybe there is another way I can help her instead of risking my own life and trying to take matters into my own hands. So it's kind of like he's indirectly helping her, which I thought was really, really awesome. We've already kind of touched on Maeve's sacrifice. She is alive, but without her powers and back with her girlfriend, Elena. And then we the biggest moment of this episode, cause we finally see, the rematch between Homelander and Soldier Boy. And we learn that, after their first encounter, that Homelander and Soldier Boy are kind of related to each other in a way. And we think that Soldier Boy is kind of like going to back out of the deal that Billy and Huey had by killing Homelander. But Soldier Boy just ends up calling him like a freaking pussy. Calls him weak. Calls him weak.
Really does not care.
And so Homelander finally has like that sliver of hope to like have some type of normalcy in his life when he finds out about Soldier Boy and, the whole pop-up thing, daddy, it's me. And Soldier Boy just shuts him down. And he's like, I would never have raised such a disappointment. And that kind of goes back to, we learned about a little bit of Soldier Boy's past as well with his father and how his father viewed him as a disappointment. And he pretty much calls Homelander a disappointment as well. And, Soldier Boy signing up for this compound V and Soldier Boy's father saying that he took a shortcut in life. And that kind of, he puts that on Homelander, and Homelander kind of just like snaps and, rejects Ryan and Homelander altogether. And it's then
attempts to kill both of them, which then causes everybody to turn on Soldier Boy. And then it becomes a big battle. He's just taking on everybody. Yeah. Except Maeve and Homelander are kind of off doing their own battle. She loses an eye, which was pretty gruesome.
I really love how Maeve, it's like, it's kind of like, if there's anyone alive, like outside of Soldier Boy, who could take on Homelander, it would be Maeve. Because, she's basically Wonder Woman. And not saying their power sets are extremely similar, but between Wonder Woman and Superman, they kind of share the same power set to a T. There are some differences and some similarities there as well, but I definitely feel like they could have. I feel like Maeve definitely could have, taken them on. But I really love the little bit of the team up there between Billy and Homelander, where they both have their eyes. It's like
they're just like, oh, do we really have to do this?
But it's almost like there's a mutual respect there between both of them. And, this entire season, Billy's been trying to, just level the playing ground, like just once.
But that's also one of the big issues I have with this season is I don't understand Billy's thought process when he snapped on Ryan. I don't understand why he did that or what he was thinking, or if he just kind of just had an episode. But when he snapped at Ryan, that just changed everything. Like, for what reason? Like, you just made him hate you, and now he's gonna choose Homelander over you.
Yeah, and Ryan is much of a broken child as Homelander was. But, even though Ryan had a little bit more normalcy in his life with his mother and then accidentally killing his mother and, living essentially, underneath somebody else's thumb. And, he's able to see Billy butcher when he can, but Billy isn't necessarily like a father figure, but it's like Billy will protect Ryan, but in his own way, like his definition of protection versus the protection and attention and love and care that Ryan actually needs. And so when Homelander goes to visit Ryan, Ryan is more in a vulnerable state where he'll just believe anything anyone tells him. Ryan thinks Homelander hates him, and Homelander's like, no, like, I don't hate you. And that kind of, turns the tide. So it's Billy kind of like burning himself indirectly again And, you know, obviously Ryan choosing Homelander over Billy because that's his father. And if
He
there's
was there.
that, and if there's anyone in the world who can relate to Ryan, it is Homelander. Like it or not, it's Homelander. So it's the invincible effects all over again.
Yep.
You know, oh man, I can't wait for that season 2. Very, very excited. I'm super excited. But I've been talking up a storm here. I do apologize. Is there anything you wanted to touch on for the season finale that we haven't touched on before we close out here?
Yeah, Homelander reveals Ryan to the public, just kind of shows him off, and then kills the protester in the middle of everybody, and they just start cheering, including the Mother's Milk's daughter's stepdad, who kind of starts off the whole cheering, and it's just kind of crazy. Like he can get away with anything because he's Homelander. The people eat it up.
Yeah, now that Homelander is able to show his true colors, because he was afraid that if he did prior, that people wouldn't love him. But obviously there is
now he's like, they love me.
Yeah.
They really love me.
Not everyone, but a small, you know, a portion of that fan base for sure. But I really liked the confrontation, again, kind of going back to the father/stepfather role with Monique and Janine, where, you know, Janine's stepfather was taking her to like all these rallies, and Mother's Milk kind of just snaps when he's like, you know, like, hey, like that's, you know, he's like I'm her father, let me take care of like the fatherly duties. And the stepfather, he's like, well, someone has to be your father, like someone has to step in and do that stuff. And I was like, you should not have said that, like, whatsoever. Like it's a co-parenting type situation, you know. It takes a village to raise a child. But, you know, Monique kind of finds out about it and just really is not okay with it whatsoever. But man, there's just so much to unpack here. It's crazy, especially with the finale. You know, Newman getting tapped in as a new VP candidate because the Deep killed off the other candidate. I guess there's one way
One thing the Deep did.
Is it the right thing that the Deep did, or was it just something that he did in general? Like, I feel like it's
just one thing that he actually did this season. He actually did a thing
besides having relations with an octopus and being bossed around by his wife, who I love it how the Deep has his own cover, his own book. I think it was called Deep or The Deep. And then his ex-wife, towards the end, they have like a little, you know, spat, and he wants to introduce like a new lover and whatnot. But hers is called In Too Deep. Her book is called In Too Deep, which is hilarious. And it's like and yet again, he is the butt of every single joke. And I absolutely love it. It is fan-freaking-tastic. But of course, we talked about Maeve's sacrifice. But we also learned that Soldier Boy isn't dead. He's just put back on ice.
Unkillable.
Unkillable? Is that
unkillable?
Oh, I thought you said unkillable for the Deep.
It could be a future project for him. The Deep spinoff.
The Deep spinoff, yeah. Honestly, I would watch like a mini series or something like that. I wanted to ask you really quick. So, did you watch The Boys Diabolical?
I did.
Did you notice any like Easter eggs between that and this new season, or any? I guess they would be Easter eggs, or any kind of like relation.
Well, one of the episodes is canon, but only one of them. The one that has Homelander in it. It kind of shows him before the events of this series. Like, it shows
him in Black Noir.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, when the lab blows up. And he goes in to save. Yeah, okay. That's why I wanted to know. I wasn't sure if there was a tie between like multiple episodes or not. But yeah, I could definitely see that being kind of like a prologue to like everything with Homelander for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's been a wild, crazy season.
We haven't even mentioned Butcher is now on his deathbed. Or not deathbed, but the clock's ticking. He's got 12 to 18 months to live, according to the doctor.
Yeah, so he's not on his deathbed just yet, but he is definitely getting there. And it's, you know, if anything, like, you say what you want about Butcher, Billy Butcher, however you want to call him, He's such a complex character himself. It's kind of like he just lives and breathes to be like an asshole. So nothing really gets close to him ever again, because we do find out that his brother ended up killing himself because Billy ended up leaving when they were younger due to their abusive father. And it didn't really make things better for Billy's brother, because their father would just constantly beat on him, probably blaming him for Billy leaving. And that's a lot to unpack. We kind of see that with inside of a Mindstorm takes over Billy's mind there. But it has been one heck of a season, and there's just so much to unpack. We try to cover everything that we can, since this is a overall arcing review of like 5 episodes. But yeah, for the season finale, I think it is great. It sets up events for season 4. Because for a second there, I thought either Homelander and or Soldier Boy would die, but I'm kind of glad they kept Soldier Boy alive, because he's such a straightforward character. Like, you can definitely say that he has PTSD for sure. But I couldn't imagine them killing off Homelander, at least not yet. But even if they did kill off Homelander, would that make things better? That's also something that we would have to think about, because I was thinking about that towards the end, the series finale, or season finale, excuse me. I always do that. Towards this season finale. And I was like, okay, like, well, what if they do kill off Homelander? Like, would that make things better? Because Ryan's still alive and Soldier Boy is technically still alive, but I don't know.
It kind of comes down to my biggest issue for this season is that if you look at the end of season 2 and the end of season 3, there really isn't that much that has changed as far as the dynamic of where they're going next. Because if you look at it, all the players are still the same in this game. It's the boys versus Homelander at the end of the day, and the Newman reveal is kind of the same thing that happened at the end of season 2, where the audience finds out that Newman is the head popper. And then at the end of season 3, we find out that she's going to become vice president. It just didn't advance the plot as much as I would have liked, just because, like I mentioned, not a whole lot has changed. Obviously, we've lost Black Noir and Maeve in this season. But other than that, it's still the same outcome from last season, which is definitely my biggest issue, because we just know they're going after Homelander next, and that's the same thing as last season.
Yeah, because I feel like the entire series has been about, trying to take down not only Vought, but it's really, once you take down Homelander, it really is kind of like, it kind of would be like a chain reaction, snowball effect of taking down everything else. Because as we learned from the previous, or the presidents of Vought previously with Giancarlo Esposito's character, he wants to get out of the superhero game. And I feel like, the first season was more about, holding, these supes accountable. And then, it kind of just boils into season 2, which, we learn, like Homelander slowly becomes like the main obstacle. I feel like he still is. And yeah, I really just wonder if, would things necessarily be different if Homelander does die? Because would they just try to make another, super replacement for him? Or, would that just mean the end of the 7 and then just another superhero group comes along where it's, like before they had Payback and now it's the 7. Same thing with within Star Wars, it was the Empire. Now it's the First Order, which is pretty much the same thing. It's just a different name for the same organization. But I do agree. To a certain point, it's just I feel like the climax of this was better than season 2. But I wanted to ask really quick, how would you rank seasons 1 through 3? Like, what would be your favorite and what would be your least favorite?
I don't know. I would have to rewatch definitely season 1 because it's been so long, but probably season 2 as well.
Yeah. Because I don't remember too much from season 1, but I do remember it just being, it was just that show that everyone had to watch.
It was just revolutionary as far as this genre.
And I really just like how, I like how season 3 has handled itself. I do like season 2. It's just, I feel like season I'll give season 1 the benefit of the doubt just because I would probably have that as my number 1, just because, that is everything that kicked off and it was new, it was fresh. I would probably have season 3 as number 2, and then I would actually say season 2 is probably like the weakest because, even in this season, we see that that Stormfront, she is alive, burnt, but she's alive, but she ends up killing herself because her and Homelander have different ideologies. So there's also that, but it's all just like a big game, and it really seems that like there are multiple obstacles. Obviously, Homelander being the number 1, but there are other soups and other people in power who also need to be taken down. But again, I just wonder, is that going to right all the wrongs, everything that they've been through? Is it going to, set everything straight, everything that happened with Robin? And one more thing before we actually close out, I really like how I wanted to mention where A-Train officially apologizes to Huey for Robin in his own
Kind of
like own sadistic way. Like, Huey kind of had to force it out of him, but towards the end, he's, A-Train's, he's like, I'm sorry, I'm fucking sorry. It was like 50% of an apology almost, but I'm interested to see what they're going to do with A-Train now that he's back in the race. He's got a new heart, and it's the heart of a it's a heart of a killer, or a heart of the person who made his brother paralyzed for the rest of his life. So it's cooking up to be some good stuff, but I really, really enjoyed season 3. Like, I really, really did. What would you give your score for season 3 overall, especially including episodes 1 through 3, like the whole shebang?
Yeah, I'd probably go with like a solid 85. I mentioned the big issues I had. That kind of weighed it down a little bit, but it's just always so entertaining to watch no matter what. Like, just being in this world is always so fun.
So I guess since we are like in the big, maybe I'll save that question for later. I was going to ask you, between all the series that we have been watching, which one have you been enjoying the most? But I feel like we should wait until volume 2 of Stranger Things comes out, because by the time that's out, then Obi-Wan will be finished. Obviously, we're already kind of done with this, but this is definitely, like, if I'm ranking between everything I'm watching right now, as of right now, this will probably be like the second best. Like, it's going to be hard to top Stranger Things for me. That's just me in general, but I really love The Boys season 3. Like, I think it's probably the best season since the first one, to be completely honest, but that's just my takeaway. Like I said, I love season 2, but something felt like it was missing from season 2. And I feel like season 3 really just corrected that. And of course, now that Starlight is an official member of The Boys, she's officially broken from Vought. There is no, so I wonder how the dynamic's going to work between The Boys and Vought within future seasons, because now they don't have that person on the inside. So that's going to be very, very interesting, but maybe she'll still have some loose connections. Maybe Ashley will, turn around and make her appearance, a part of The Boys as well. Kimiko has her powers back. She learns that, that's more of, it's not that Compound V is evil. It's more so to deal with a person. So it's been crazy stuff. And R.I.P. Black Noir. Probably won't see any more of him, because
Barely knew ya. Literally.
He never moves without Vought's okay. If anyone was loyal on the 7 team, it was Black Noir. A man of very few words and a scorched, burned face, unfortunately, with his imaginary friends. May he rest in peace. But yeah, that pretty much concludes our season 3 review of The Boys. Thank you again, Amazon, for sending us these screeners early so we'd be able to get this out to all of our amazing listeners out there. A little bit more of a longer episode than I anticipated, but there was a lot to unpack, and we kind of just wanted to go by episode to episode and really kind of just dig in deep instead of just giving like our general thoughts and analysis about the season. We really kind of wanted to dig in and go into the weeds here, so to speak. But What is coming up on the podcast, you might ask? Well, as of this, when it releases, since we are reviewing this a little bit early, we have no clue. But by the time this is out for everyone to listen to, we will have a few things that are out, including our Umbrella Academy season 3 review will be out by the time this episode drops. Of course, you'll be able to listen to all of our Obi-Wan Kenobi series reviews as we're doing that week by week. So those should all be up on the podcast as well. Depending on if we review Stranger Things Volume 2 by the time this is out, it may or may not be out by the time you're listening to this. So definitely just check our episode list. It may or may not be there. If it's not there, we're working on it for you guys. You know, this is past Christian speaking to future Christian type situation here. But those are just a few things. I believe our Fallen Kingdom, Jurassic World Dominion should be out by the time this episode goes live as well. So we hope you guys have a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys later on. Really quick, actually, before we go, there's one thing we ask everyone to do here. If you've made it this far, is to share an episode of our podcast with a friend, whether it be your mother, your brother, your lover, whoever it may be. Make sure to share an episode of the Film Optix podcast with a movie lover in need. And that's a wrap for today. Thank you all for listening. And if you enjoy the show, leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And follow us on Twitter and Instagram to stay in the know. That was Devin. My name is Christian, and we'll see you guys in the next one.